All right, so today we're diving into Orwell's 1984.
A classic.
Totally. But, it's one of those books that just never gets old.
Yeah, it's scary how relevant it still feels.
Right. Especially that whole Big Brother thing, always watching.
It's like he could see the future or something.
Seriously. So we're going to be looking at excerpts from part one today, setting the stage.
Oh.
Oceania, totalitarian state where Big Brother controls everything. History? What history? And free thought. Forget about it.
It's amazing how Orwell doesn't just present this dystopia, though. He really breaks down how it all works, this system of control.
Machinery behind it.
Exactly. How language, technology, even our own psychology can be used against us.
And one of the first things that hits you is this idea that there's literally no escape from surveillance. You've got these telescreens everywhere.
Two-way TV screens. In your home, on the street.
Watching your every move. Listening to every word.
You can't even whisper a complaint to yourself without wondering if someone's analyzing it.
And that constant awareness.
Yeah.
That there's always someone or something watching.
Orwell nailed that feeling, that anxiety. And honestly, it's more relevant now than ever.
It really is. With facial recognition and data tracking and all that, it's like the line between fiction and reality is getting, I don't know.
Blurry.
Blurry, yeah.
It's like that feeling when you realize your phone camera's open. All the time.
Constantly. And in the middle of all this is Winston.
Our protagonist.
Just a regular guy trying to navigate this world where thinking the wrong thing is a crime. Or as Orwell calls it,
Thought crime.
thought crime. Which is brilliant when you think about it because it lets the party control not just what you do, but what you think.
The ultimate tool of oppression. And to enforce that control, they use propaganda, manipulation, the 2 minutes hate being the most obvious example.
Okay, so for those who haven't read the book, what is the 2 minutes hate?
Imagine this. Every day, everyone gathers around these telescreens. And for 2 minutes straight, they're bombarded with images and sounds designed to provoke
Rage.
intense rage and hatred, all directed at the enemies of the state, of course.
Yeah, those poor saps. Goldstein and his cronies.
It's fascinating, really. Orwell uses this daily ritual to show how powerful collective emotion can be when everyone is focused on hating the same thing.
You get this weird sense of unity.
Right, we're all in this together, except this is hate.
It's creepy how easily we can be manipulated like that. How our emotions can be turned against us.
Totally. And what's even more disturbing is how the party targets children. I mean, they're literally turning kids into weapons against their own families.
The spies.
Exactly, encouraging kids to report any unorthodox behavior, even from their parents.
It's like they want to crush any instinct of rebellion before it can even
bloom.
And then there's their control over language itself, which is just
Newspeak.
newspeak. Tell me that's not some seriously messed up stuff.
Oh, it's messed up, all right, but it's brilliant in a terrifying kind of way. You see, it's not just about censoring words, it's about simplifying language.
Dumbifying it down.
To the point where complex thought, especially any thought that challenges the party,
Becomes impossible.
literally unthinkable. Because the words to even think it don't exist anymore.
It's like if you reduce the number of colors in a paint set, you can't create certain shades anymore. Like the word free still exists in Newspeak.
But only in the context of free from something, never free to do something.
There's no concept of freedom itself anymore, at least not the way we understand it.
And that's the insidious genius of Newspeak. It's not brute force, it's this slow, creeping
Poison.
poison, exactly. It gets into your head and warps how you see the world.
And then you've got doublethink, which is what? The ability to believe two contradictory things.
At the same time.
And somehow make it work in your head.
Which is crucial for the party, right? Because they're constantly rewriting history.
Changing the narrative.
And doublethink lets you just accept it. No questions asked.
It's like he's saying, look, this could happen to anyone. You think you're too smart, too independent.
Put under enough pressure.
Anyone could break.
Exactly. And yet, even in this totally controlled system, Orwell still gives us these glimmers of hope. These little acts of resistance.
And that's where Winston's character really gets interesting. Because he's not some kind of hero,
No, he's not a trained revolutionary.
It's just an ordinary guy who's disturbed by what he sees happening. So he starts keeping this diary.
Which is incredibly dangerous in Oceania.
Writing down your thoughts.
Yeah.
Big no-no.
Huge risk.
But that diary, it becomes Winston's only outlet.
A place where he can think for himself.
Even if it's just on paper, right?
Exactly. It's his way of holding on to some sense of himself, of individuality in this world that's constantly trying to, I don't know,
Assimilate you.
assimilate you.
Exactly. And then there are the proles,
The working class in 1984.
the ones who are kind of overlooked by the party.
They're seen as too unimportant to really control, which, ironically...
Gives them a weird kind of freedom.
Right. They're not subject to the same level of surveillance, the same thought control.
And Winston, he's drawn to them.
They represent this authenticity, this rawness that's been completely crushed out of the party members.
He sees them as this potential force for change.
He even writes in his diary, if there is hope, it lies in the proles.
Powerful stuff. But maybe he's looking for hope in the wrong place.
Well, the proles are not these perfect revolutionaries. They're just trying to survive.
Putting food on the table. Getting through the day.
Exactly. But there's this resilience there, this human spirit that the party hasn't managed to crush. Like that scene where Winston sees that prole woman singing.
This simple little song. It was only a hopeless fancy.
It seems so insignificant, but
But it's not.
it represents something the party can't control. Beauty? Emotion?
Humanity.
Yes. It's that glimmer of hope that Winston clings to. The idea that even in this oppressive darkness.
There's still something worth fighting for.
And then, of course, you have Julia.
Ah, Julia. Talk about a breath of fresh air.
She's rebellious in a completely different way than Winston.
Oh, totally. She's not interested in grand ideas or overthrowing the system. She just wants to live.
Experience things.
Pleasure.
Exactly. And stick it to the party in her own small way.
Their affair becomes this act of defiance.
It's about claiming a space for themselves. For love, for desire.
For something real in this world of lies and control.
And it offers a glimpse of what it means to be truly human in this inhuman world that Orwell has created. But remember how we were talking about clinging to hope?
Yeah.
Well, Winston's hope takes a bit of a dangerous turn when he starts to believe in this organized resistance movement, the Brotherhood.
Right. This mysterious group that's fighting against Big Brother from the shadows.
It becomes this almost mythical symbol for Winston.
A beacon in the darkness.
And his belief leads him to O'Brien.
Ah, O'Brien. This high-ranking inner party member that Winston just knows is secretly part of the Brotherhood.
He wants to believe it so badly.
And this is where the suspense really starts to build, you know? Because you're not sure if O'Brien is.
Playing Winston.
Exactly. Or if he's the real deal.
And that scene where Winston and Julia finally meet O'Brien in his luxurious apartment, it's
surreal.
He even turns off the telescreen, which is like
a huge deal.
It's a direct challenge to the party.
And it plays right into Winston's desire to believe. Because he's looking for any sign that O'Brien is who he thinks he is.
He wants a mentor.
A father figure.
Someone to guide him in this fight against Big Brother.
And for a moment, it seems like he's found that in O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the perfect bait, too.
Goldstein's book, The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism.
This forbidden text. The key to understanding the Brotherhood, or so Winston thinks.
It's like the more forbidden something is,
the more you want it.
Exactly. And of course, the book itself.
Another layer of control.
Oh, absolutely. The party created the very enemy they're pretending to fight against.
A fake enemy. A dangerous book. All to lure in people like Winston.
It's brilliant in a twisted kind of way.
It really is. And for a while, Winston and Julia, they're
hooked.
Totally. They think they found their purpose.
Reading that book in their secret room above Mr. Charrington's shop.
Thinking they're finally safe. And then, bam.
The telescreen.
Behind the painting.
The one they thought was off.
Watching them the whole time.
Talk about creepy.
It's that moment when you realize there's just no escape.
Nowhere to hide.
And from there, it's all downhill for Winston.
The Ministry of Love.
Which is just Orwellian, if you ask me.
The ultimate irony.
Because it's the opposite of love. It's torture.
Psychological manipulation.
They break him down piece by piece.
Until he accepts their version of reality.
And then, Room 101.
Everyone wants to know about Room 101.
Right. What's behind that door?
Orwell never tells us exactly what Winston faces in there.
He leaves it up to our imaginations. Which somehow makes it even scarier.
Because it becomes whatever your deepest fear is.
We all have something we're terrified of.
And the idea that the party knows what that is.
And they'll use it against you.
It's terrifying.
And whatever it is for Winston, it breaks him. He betrays Julia, gives up everything he believed in.
And that scene toward the end when he sees Julia again,
After they've both been released,
they're different, empty.
the party took everything from them, didn't they? Even their love for each other.
It's a pretty bleak ending.
It is. But Orwell leaves us with this question, how do we fight against that kind of control?
How do we recognize the ways in which power tries to manipulate us?
Because we have our own versions of telescreens today, our own newspeak.
It's everywhere if you know how to look for it.
Exactly. And that's what makes 1984 so important, I think. It's a warning, a reminder to be vigilant, to question everything.
And to fight for our right to think for ourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
So, folks, if you haven't read 1984, or even if you have,
It's worth another look.
trust us. It's a deep dive into the human condition that will stay with you long after you finish reading.